Have you been feeling that strange heaviness in your chest lately? That quiet dread that settles over you when you wake at 3 in the morning with no reason to be awake? Have you noticed how your peace has been slipping away like water through your fingers? How the things that once brought you joy now feel distant and hollow? You are afraid something is wrong with you. You wonder if you are losing your way, if God has forgotten you in your struggle. But what if I told you this heaviness is not a punishment but a warning, not abandonment but the first touch of divine correction, the gentlest knock on the door of your soul before you wander too far into the wilderness? You are sitting in your room right now, perhaps in the early morning or late at night when the house is finally quiet. There is a cup of cold coffee on the table beside you, forgotten hours ago when your mind drifted into worrying. The silence around you feels thick, almost suffocating, and in that silence you can hear your own heartbeat, faster than it should be, anxious without clear cause. You know this feeling. You have been carrying it for days now, maybe weeks, and you have tried to ignore it, tried to push through it with distractions and busyness, but it follows you everywhere like a shadow you cannot shake. This is not random. This is not your mind playing tricks on you or some chemical imbalance that needs to be medicated away. What you are experiencing is the first warning God sends when you begin to drift from your path, when the choices you are making or the thoughts you are entertaining start to lead you away from the life He has called you to live. The heaviness you feel is the weight of misalignment, the spiritual friction that occurs when your soul knows you are moving in the wrong direction even if your conscious mind has not yet admitted it. God does not wait until you are lost in the desert to call you back. He sends this feeling first, this holy discomfort, this divine unease that makes it impossible for you to continue in false peace. Saint Seraphina of the Hidden Flame knew this warning intimately. In her journal she wrote, "The soul feels heaven's sorrow before it understands its own sin." She understood that God's corrections come wrapped in mercy, that He troubles our false comfort so we will seek true rest in Him. Seraphina spent years teaching seekers how to recognize the language of divine warning, how to distinguish between the enemy's accusations and God's loving redirection. She knew that most people miss this first warning entirely because they interpret the feeling as ordinary stress or anxiety, never realizing it is their spirit responding to the presence of God standing at the threshold of their consciousness waiting to be acknowledged. In the unseen realm, something profound is happening right now. When you begin to drift from your path, when you start making choices that lead away from your calling, the angels assigned to your protection become restless. They do not control you or force you back onto the right road, but they begin to send signals to your spirit, gentle alarms that manifest in your body and emotions as this persistent unease. Grace itself becomes heavier in your awareness, pressing down on the parts of your life that are out of alignment, creating the uncomfortable sensation you have been trying to escape. Your soul, which is always more attuned to spiritual reality than your mind, recognizes the warning and sends distress signals upward through your consciousness. This is why you feel restless in your prayer, why worship feels distant, why scripture that once came alive now seems flat and lifeless. The blockage is not in heaven. The blockage is in the space between where you are and where you are meant to be, and your soul is crying out for you to notice before the distance grows too great. Are you beginning to see why this feeling has been so persistent? Why no amount of distraction or denial has made it go away? Your weakness in this moment is not a flaw to be ashamed of. Your sensitivity to the spiritual unease is actually a sacred gift, proof that you are chosen, that you are called to something higher than a life of comfortable numbness. The people who never feel this warning are the ones who have drifted so far that their spirits have stopped sending alarms, who have become so accustomed to misalignment that they no longer register when they are off course. But you still feel it. Your spirit is still crying out. Your connection to God is still intact enough that His warnings can reach you. This means you are not lost. This means there is still time. This means He has not given up on you. And this discomfort you are experiencing is actually His hand reaching out to pull you back before you stumble over the cliff you cannot yet see. How do you know this unease is truly from God and not just ordinary fear or stress? The discernment is in the fruit that follows when you finally turn and face it. When you stop running from this feeling and instead bring it into prayer, when you ask God honestly what He is trying to show you, you will notice something shift. Divine conviction always leads to clarity. It might be painful clarity, the kind that requires you to admit you have been fooling yourself or making excuses for behaviors you know are wrong, but it is clarity nonetheless. Ordinary anxiety loops endlessly and produces no insight, only more fear. But when you surrender to this warning and ask God to reveal what needs to change, He will show you. You will suddenly see the patterns you have been ignoring, the small compromises that have been accumulating, the ways you have been prioritizing comfort over calling. And with that clarity will come peace, not the false peace of denial, but the deep peace of knowing you are finally facing the truth. Compassion will rise in your heart, not condemnation. You will feel God's love surrounding the very thing He is correcting, and you will understand that He only warns those He cherishes. When the heaviness comes again, when you feel that weight settling over your chest and that unease creeping into your thoughts, pray this silently. Lord, show me where I have drifted. Just those words, simple and honest, spoken from a willing heart. Do not pray it as a formula that will magically remove the discomfort. Pray it as an act of submission, a declaration that you are ready to see what He wants to show you, ready to turn back toward the path even if it means admitting you were wrong. This prayer opens a door between your conscious awareness and the deeper wisdom of your spirit, allowing God to bring into your mind the specific things He wants you to address. You are not struggling alone in this. Right now, as you sit with this strange weight on your heart, holy beings are noticing. Your guardian angels are leaning in closer, watching to see if you will recognize the warning for what it is. The saints who have walked the same road, who have felt the same divine unease and learned to respond to it, are interceding for you before the throne of God. Seraphina herself, who spent her earthly life teaching others to recognize heaven's voice in the midst of inner turmoil, is among those praying that you will not miss this moment, that you will not dismiss what you are feeling as meaningless discomfort. You are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses who understand exactly what you are going through because they went through it themselves, and they are cheering for you to turn around, to listen, to respond while the warning is still gentle. Every time you have felt this unease in recent days and chosen to pause, even for a moment, to ask God what He wants you to know, that moment has been recorded in heaven. Every time you have resisted the temptation to numb yourself with endless scrolling or binge watching or any of the 1,000 ways we try to silence our inner discomfort, that choice has been seen and treasured. You think you are accomplishing nothing when you simply sit in the discomfort and refuse to run from it. But you are actually doing profound spiritual work. You are building your capacity to hear God's voice in the subtle places, to recognize His touch in the feelings you would normally ignore. These small acts of faithful attention are victories that matter more than you know. Heaven celebrates every time a soul chooses awareness over avoidance, every time someone stops long enough to ask what God is trying to say. Are you beginning to understand that this warning is actually an invitation? The heaviness you feel is not meant to crush you, but to wake you up, to shake you out of the spiritual sleepwalking that was slowly carrying you away from everything that matters. God is not angry with you. He is urgently in love with you, and He knows that the path you were starting to walk leads only to emptiness and regret. So He sends this warning, this holy discomfort, this blessed unease that will not let you rest until you turn back toward Him. And when you do turn back, when you finally acknowledge what He has been trying to show you and make the changes He is calling you to make, this same feeling that seemed like a burden will transform into a doorway. You will begin to experience God's presence with a depth and intimacy you never knew was possible. The very sensitivity that made you so uncomfortable will become your greatest spiritual asset, the thing that keeps you close to Him for the rest of your life. This warning is your friend, not your enemy. It is the sound of God calling your name before you wandered afar to hear Him. It is proof that you matter to heaven, that your life has a purpose so important that God Himself will interrupt your false peace to redirect you back toward it. You are not broken for feeling this way. You are beloved. You are chosen. You are being warned because you are worth saving, because there are things you are meant to do and people you are meant to reach and a version of yourself you are meant to become, and God will not let you miss it without a fight. The transformation happens in the turning. The moment you stop resisting this feeling and instead lean into it with open hands and an honest heart, everything shifts. The heaviness begins to lift, not because the conviction disappears, but because you stop carrying it alone. God steps fully into the space you have made for Him through your willingness, and His presence changes the entire atmosphere of your inner world. What felt like judgment reveals itself as mercy. What felt like condemnation reveals itself as protection. You see with sudden clarity that this warning was never about making you feel bad about yourself, but about loving you too much to let you settle for less than the abundant life He has prepared for you. And in that moment of recognition, you are no longer afraid. You are grateful. You are amazed that the God of the universe would care enough about your individual path to send a warning this specific, this personal, this perfectly timed to catch you before the fall. You are not alone in this moment. You have never been alone. The feeling of isolation that has accompanied your unease is part of the drift itself, part of what happens when we start to pull away from our source. But the truth is that you are held, watched over, prayed for, guided by forces you cannot see, but that are more real than anything you can touch. God has not taken His eyes off you for a single second. He has been waiting patiently for you to stop long enough to feel His presence, to recognize His voice in the discomfort, to understand that He is not the source of your heaviness, but the solution to it. Now you must decide what to do with what you know. Will you continue to ignore the warning, to push through the discomfort with distractions and denials until it finally fades and you drift afar to easily return? Or will you stop right now, in this very moment, and turn your full attention to God, asking Him with complete honesty to show you what needs to change? The choice is yours, and it is urgent. This warning will not last forever. God respects your freedom too much to force you back onto the right path. If you continue to ignore what He is showing you, the warning will eventually fade, and you will feel a false peace return, the kind of peace that comes not from alignment with God, but from the numbing of your spiritual senses. That is the most dangerous place of all, to be drifting and no longer feel the drift. I want you to do something right now. I want you to leave a comment below and tell me what specific area of your life this warning is touching. Where have you been making compromises? What choice have you been avoiding? What relationship or habit or thought pattern has been pulling you away from your calling? Name it. Write it down. Bring it into the light where God can touch it and you can begin to address it. The act of naming what you are feeling and where you are drifting is itself a form of repentance, a turning back toward truth. And when you share it, you break the power of secrecy and shame that has been keeping you stuck. If this message has awakened something in your spirit, if you recognize yourself in these words, then subscribe to this channel right now, because there is so much more Saint Seraphina has to teach you about recognizing heaven's voice in your everyday life. There are warning signs you have been missing, divine invitations you have been overlooking, and profound truths about your calling that you need to hear. Do not wait. Do not tell yourself you will come back to it later. Subscribe now so you do not miss what is coming next. And here is the most important thing. Think right now of someone in your life who needs to hear this, someone you know who has been carrying that same heaviness, who has been struggling with that same unease and does not understand what it means. Share this video with them today. Send it to them with a simple message that says you were thinking of them. You might be the instrument God uses to deliver His warning to someone who is about to drift afar. You might be the one who helps them recognize that their discomfort is not random, but deeply meaningful, that God is reaching out to them right now with the same love and urgency He has shown to you. Do not underestimate the power of sharing truth at the right moment. Lives change when we are willing to be the messengers. Close your eyes for a moment right now, wherever you are. Take a deep breath and let yourself feel whatever you are feeling without trying to fix it or change it. In this silence, ask God to make clear to you what He has been trying to show you through this warning. Ask Him to give you the courage to see the truth and the strength to make the changes that are needed. Thank Him for loving you enough to warn you, for caring about your path so much that He will not let you wander away without reaching out. Stay in this moment of prayer for as long as you need. Let His presence meet you in your honesty, and know that the very fact you have made it to the end of this message is itself a sign that God is not finished with you, that your story is not over, that the best chapters of your life are still ahead if you will choose to turn back toward Him now.